Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest DZone webinar. My name is Jason Cockrum. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at DZone, and we're glad you're here with us. We've got a really relevant and exciting topic for you today, so we're glad that you're here. If you're new to DZone, we are one of the world's largest online communities of software developers and experts. We publish all sorts of knowledge resources for developers and really anyone passionate about software development. We've got all kinds of stuff like ref cards and trend reports and thousands of articles written and published by our community. And all this kind of makes us the go-to knowledge hub for software developers all over the world. We also do a ton of great events like this one, and you can find them all at our website at dzone.com/events. You can see past events, on-demand webinars, upcoming events, and they're all on wonderful topics. So be sure to check that out. Joining me today, I have Krishna Vishnubotla. I hope said that right. He is the VP of Product Strategy for Application Security at Zimperium. He has nearly 20 years of experience building and deploying software with companies like Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, Accenture, and all kinds of other stuff. At Zimperium specifically, he helps companies develop and deploy security strategies for their mobile applications. And as smartphones and tablets have become basically ubiquitous, especially across the business world, having a great mobile app is vital for companies to engage with their customers. We all use them. We all have them. It's just something that's part of our lives these days. And as we all know, mobile app developers, and probably all developers, if we're being honest, are under pressure to deliver better apps faster with fewer resources. And unfortunately, as is often the case, security is typically a trade-off in this situation. But today, Krishna is going to talk for just a few minutes about some tools and best practices that we can use to secure our mobile apps and prevent bad actors from gaining access to valuable customer and proprietary company data. It's super important. So, Krishna, I'm going to go ahead and let you start talking now. So take it away.
Thanks, Jason. Folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. As Jason mentioned, my name is Krishna Vishnubotla, and I'm part of Zimperium. And really what Zimperium does is we do two things, right? Our vision is to protect mobile endpoints and mobile apps. And majority of my expertise is helping enterprises build secure mobile applications, right? So let's get going. Jason, quick question for you. How many mobile apps do you have on your phone?
Oh, goodness. Gosh. 100 maybe?
Yeah, so I'm worse than you are. I have 126, and I have no idea why I have so many apps. First of all, right? I couldn't tell you what they are, but that's the world we live in, right? I think apps represent, at a consumer's perspective, is productivity, right? Convenience. And for enterprises, exactly the other side of it is business growth and engagement, like you said, right? I mean, if you bought a car recently, you can probably connect, you have an app that opens the door, starts the car, but also you can use it to schedule service, get a loaner, right? It's incredible what mobile apps have done for businesses and us as consumers, right? So when we think about mobile apps, right, everybody has a visual about mobile apps, right? You and I, who have over 100 apps that we have no clue why, have all these kind of apps, right? We have company apps, right? I have Expensify, Zoom, Salesforce. So I have apps that my company push down to my phone that work on enterprise data, but I have on my own personal apps, right? 5 banking apps, music, credit cards, health, you name it, right? And really, what's common to a lot of these apps is they're multifunctional, right? And that essentially means 10 years ago when the App Store was out, these apps did one thing and they did one thing well. Today, these apps don't do one thing anymore, right? Like your Line is a great example. Now you can hear Elon Musk saying Twitter has become a super app. So we have more and more apps becoming super apps, right? So what do? In essence, they'll verify that it's you, like some kind of username, password, biometric, process payments. We buy stuff all the time we don't need. The read sensitive data, whether it's yours, ours, or enterprise data, right? And eventually all of this goes somewhere. I think every time I say mobile app, a lot of people forget that there is tons of infrastructure behind that mobile app that actually makes it so cool and so valuable to us, right? The data you're reading is coming from somewhere. The data you type and volunteer goes to servers somewhere in the world. But as a consumer, you don't care, right? It's nice to be ignorant to all that as long as we get value. But if you look at it from an enterprise and the application developers that are behind it, their view is slightly different, right? They have been tasked with bringing to life a business idea, right? Via technology, via a mobile app that is either productivity driven or growth driven. And they think of it as, okay, there's going to be a cool UX. There's going to be some business logic that's going to do ifs and buts and tell them what to do and give them the information they need. Store the data somewhere, partly in the server, partly on the phone, because we're not going to wait more than 3 seconds for that app to come up or that page to come up, right? It's not. And third-party components is we don't have to build this from scratch, right? This is a great thing about the third-party communities and open source communities is they have built and tested some great pieces of code that they can leverage again. There's no point reinventing the wheel, right? So you have consumers that love mobile apps for convenience and it's productivity, and then you have enterprises that are like, I want my employees to be more productive. We can grow our business and engagement, like you said. But if I said how much do you think it costs to build a mobile app for these enterprises, right? I don't know what your favorite mobile app is. You can pick one. Oh, what is it? Let me just ask you. What's your favorite app on your phone?
Oh God. Oh, favorite?
Yeah. One of your favorites, I should say. I don't think it's fair to say favorite.
Right. I really love the Spark email app. I've used that for a while. Yeah, I really like it.
Right. So one of my favorite ones is Spotify, right? I listen to a ton of music. Yeah. And when we think enterprises and mobile apps, we're generally not thinking about the cost. But in today's world, expensive, right? If the average cost is $300,000, and that was before really not even considering what COVID did to the cost of finding good developers, right? But it's up there, right? This is probably not even considering inflation adjusting, right? So hiring app developers is hard. Finding good talent is hard, right? They're not, we have to pay them well to keep them because we want them to write great code. And then you need hundreds, if not thousands of these to build enterprise apps. I mean, think of banking apps, right? The average banking app has 100 features, 100, right? I probably use 4 of those, right? But
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So because mobile apps now have become the digital storefront for most enterprises, right? Especially if you're consumer facing. And you compete. Your mobile app is your brand. And the features, essentially, your mobile app is now how you differentiate yourself, right? We know apps that are cool. We know apps that we don't use, but they're very expensive to build. And if you think of banks, these large enterprises with 1,000 or 10,000 developers, it's expensive. All these developers have different levels of training when it comes to building the app. No fault of their own, right? Our education system doesn't tell you how to write secure code, right? Because I came through that system. It teaches you Java. You can go to write courses on Swift, hybrid, whatnot. But secure coding, you're mostly learning on the job. So there's an immense amount of talent of different degrees that is working on the same mobile app globally, right? So cost is front of everything, right? It's on top of mind because we're spending the money before we see the benefit from it. And then there's a 20% fee of maintaining this stuff. Let's not forget that stuff, right? So it gets expensive. And then there's people. And then, so when developers are being incentivized to go to market faster, right? Write cooler stuff, right? They're focused on speed to market. They're not thinking, I'm going to write the best, most secure code on the planet. No, right? I think they're thinking, I want to build cool stuff. I want to build as much as possible, meet my MBO, get promoted, and right? That's the mindset, and that's how their contracts are laid. Now, enterprises I think a lot of good enterprises are starting to give them a lot more training, which is really fantastic to see, right? What does secure coding mean to the enterprise? And then how can we help you? We see a lot of those programs coming up to speed, and that's really wonderful to see. But for the most part, the pressure on building something quicker, taking it to market faster, to realize business goals and outcomes is really why it ends up looking like this. You're like, 70% of my code has been written by somebody else, right? Payments is not new. Authenticating your username and password is not new. So you see a lot of these mobile apps where they're built like Legos, right? You've got like, oh, there is an open source for that. There's a proprietary SDK for that. I can build 60, 70% of this, right? The part of it that you're not going to find is your business logic, because you're trying to do something unique. But this is how apps are built. I mean, 70% of this code is most likely somebody else's stuff. Nothing wrong with it, right? But this is where we kind of get into this really rock and a hard place, right? You want me to go faster, build cooler apps, much more differentiated, cool UX, but with the time I'm given, with the cost constraints and everything else, it just makes sense to use third-party stuff, right? And the industry is great at doing that. There's a huge open source industry that supports it. But then the question becomes, you test your stuff and you have some relative degree of surety that, okay, I've tested it, I know what I'm getting into. But if 70% of your stuff is other people's code, how well do you know their stuff, right? I'm like,
right.
There's no easy way, right? Who are you going to really ask? If it's open source, this is a community that's doing their best to give you something amazing. But, right, if you have an issue, you're not going to get the response time you want, especially you're an enterprise, right, who's used to enterprise software type of support. And the other big thing you see a lot of these communities are realizing is, do you even know who's contributing code to these things?
Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, you start going down that road and you're like, wait a minute. It's not like we're certifying them to write code into, right?
Right.
You have all these unknowns that come up, and you can't control all those unknowns, but there are solutions where you can say, there's a threshold of risk I would like to stay below. And I need some mechanism of saying, I don't want to compromise my speed to market, but I need a way of assessing and mitigating the risk that I'm taking on in this paradigm of speed to market and development velocity, right? So what we did is we looked at 1 million apps in the store, right? So I think the App Store and Google Store had about 6 million apps right now, which is insane to think about. So we said we're going to look at 1 million of them and see what comes out, right? How these apps are their bread and butter, right? I mean, if you think of some of the amount of money some of these apps make through their mobile, it's insane. So you'd think you want to protect it. But look at the issues that we're seeing, right? People write mobile apps, don't protect their code, right? Which essentially means, think about it. If you spent 9 months building a mobile app and it took $1 million, if I'm a malicious actor, I could spend $150, get a tool, download your app, reverse it, and get access to your source code in 15 minutes.
Gosh.
Right? A year and $1 million, $150 in 15 minutes. Right? Which is
That's
insane
crazy.
right? I mean, we keep thinking there is some guy sitting in the corner in Russia, and he has this unique skill set to do this. No, right? This stuff has been commoditized, and it's that easy, and it's insane.
And we see stories every other day of like, this app has been compromised. Yep. This app is facing challenges, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy too, because in a lot of that is one, speed to market pressure. So you can't blame development, right? They're under a lot of pressure. Do they have the right training? And also we reuse the same stuff, right? The same authentication SDKs you use somewhere are going to be used in most apps because they've been used the most, right? So you see one problem, guarantee you that code has been in probably 1,000 other apps, right? It just haven't been hacked yet. Right. So you see these areas where you're not protecting your code. Encryption. People think encryption is security, but it's really not true. It's not enough. Not protecting data, right? A lot of apps now, you keep hearing this word, cloud native, right? which essentially means your app is just talking to a cloud infrastructure rather than on-premise, which is great because you can go to market faster. But guess what? A lot of these apps don't configure themselves correctly to the cloud. So all your information in the cloud, I could search for, like searching in Google, and I would get your data, right? So there are benefits, but when not configured properly, right, but not set up properly, when you don't take the time to check everything, it's craziness, right? It becomes very easy to abuse and compromise your app, right? This is like you taking your offensive playbook and giving it to the opposing team, right? You might as well just give it to them at this point,
Right.
And that's the problem. But we don't think of it that way. We think, oh, no one's going to try to steal my code. They have access to why would they steal my code? But
it'll never happen to me.
Yeah. And it comes down to, do you understand what crown jewels are in your app? That should determine the amount of security you have, right? Things like that. But it's amazing. These are the categories we see all the time. And there are solutions out there to address each of these, right? Now, the million apps we said, well, what if these are not the apps we use every day, right? So we said, let's just look at the top 100 apps in the store. The top 100, right? This is the stores ranking them, saying the most downloaded, the most used, right? So this is probably on 60% of mobile devices. And we said, maybe they're much safer, right?
You'd hope so.
They don't have these issues. So here we go. So we looked at business apps, similar issues, right? Encryption, stuff that's been broken a decade ago, right? They allow audio recording. A lot of these apps don't. What enterprise apps would you give permission to record your audio, right? But we ignore permissions, right? Permissions, I think, is the one thing, including me. I'm so eager to get to the app. I'm like, okay, let's just go.
Right, yeah.
And they know that, right? And this is where we get into trouble.
They're counting on it.
Yeah, and then device IDs, right? All these apps know the serial number, your IP address, and this is just stuff being leaked. What about travel? Right? We all love travel. Credential leakage, right? And think about it. My app knows my payment details. So, so it's insane, the amount of issues, and this keeps going. Every app that we use keeps going, right? So where do these real issues come out? 3 places. One, during development. Why we have what we talked about, a lot of developers, varying degrees, making decisions, but don't have something that helps them say, ooh, that decision is going to cost me. Let me find an alternative. Second, once they're published, the biggest misnomer right now is when my app is sitting in the App Store and Play Store, it's safe. No, it's not. Your app sitting in these stores is the equivalent of your code being sitting out there for anybody to poke and prod at. And that's what gets apps into trouble. The third, when the app is running on end user devices like yours and mine, think about what it's exposed to. It's exposed to all my bad habits. I am going to connect to unsecure Wi-Fi's because I want fast connectivity at the airport.
Right.
I'm going to download free games because I'm too cheap to pay for it.
Right.
But there could be malware in these games, right? I'm going to click on all the stupid links my friends send me, right? But some of them could be phishing, and phishing is proliferant right now, right? So an enterprise app is exposed to the elements on the end user's device. And app developers and enterprises don't account for all these 3 buckets. We account for the first bucket because we do a whole bunch of code scanning, but we don't really account for the other 2 buckets, which are saying, here's how you could get abused and exploited on a mobile device specifically. And that's what I need to watch out for, right?
Yeah.
One of the other traps that you see enterprises fall into is we've come from the world of web applications, and web apps use Java, mobile apps use Java. Let's just use the same scanners. No, right? Code scanning is great, right? It focuses on syntax and semantics of the code, right? It's like Grammarly. It can tell you whether your sentences, your grammar is right. but Grammarly can't really tell you if your overall narrative makes sense, right? So they are different tools that look at your overall binary and say, have you put this together right? Right? Your ingredients are great, but the overall finished product, is it safe? And is it specifically on a mobile phone?
Yeah.
The mobile phone is, you're no longer on your own infrastructure like a web app, right? You are running on somebody else's infrastructure, which changes the game. And it just gets even more challenging. Look at the amount of people involved in getting a mobile app out, right? So it gets complicated, right? It's not that easy to solve, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to start, So if you're going to start your journey, here's kind of how we think about it. Pre-release, get visibility into as many things as possible, right? Get a binary scanner along with a code scanner. See if everything's been put together right. Secure your application's code. Like I said, in 15 minutes, do not lose your differentiation.
Right.
Protect it. Third, runtime visibility. Most of the consumer apps that we have, the enterprises, they're running on millions, if not tens of millions of apps. If someone is trying to tamper, abuse, get some visibility first. Forget about doing something, right? There are tools that'll give you plenty of visibility so that you at least know if someone's trying to abuse or exploit your app, right? Then you can move to helping those apps defend themselves, right? There's runtime technologies where if the app knows that it's getting abused or exploited, it can shut itself down, right? So there are technologies for that. And then securing cryptographic keys. This is a little bit more of a niche topic, but think about if you're going to use encryption, encrypt it with good, proven, validated encryption schemes, and make sure that doesn't break when the device is compromised. And that's a big thing you got to think about for mobile, because there are a million different types of mobile phones with different hardware.
Yeah.
Right? You got to be careful about those things. So at Zimperium, really what we're doing is we kind of understand these three buckets of risk, and we are providing solutions to all of these. Because if you really want to protect your mobile app, it's not either or, it's all of these buckets that you have to consider, right? Look at the crown jewels in your app. Look at the impact, what happens if those get exploited or breached, and then figure out how much protection you need. And really what we've come up with is a mobile app security platform that addresses all these issues within a single solution, right? Today, the way the industry and enterprises work is for each of these solutions, they have a different product. So if you're a CIO or an app dev team, you got to maintain 4 to 6 different products, train people, and then you're married to that technology, right? And that impacts your hiring. But we're trying to take that away, saying, I'll give you a simple platform that abstracts away the complexity, gives you the simplicity, right? And it's practical security. And that's what Zimperium does. And the beauty of it is the platform addresses the different problems within your SDLC. So we're not solving one problem and saying, well, sorry, you got to go get another product elsewhere, right? We understand that you have to protect the entire process. And the platform allows you to do that. And it's palatable to all these different stakeholders. And that's what makes our mobile app security platform unique and differentiated, right? And yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, that's really cool. Like, because we all know that DevSecOps is like it's a whole thing, right? It's not just one particular piece of it, right?
Correct.
And so it's really cool to see. Like, I have so many friends and colleagues who get annoyed with having to try so many different tools to get stuff out the door, and I'm sure they love, like, oh, hey, I can do DevSecOps with one tool, right? I don't have to do it all through different applications and different things. Like, it's all in one place. And to me, it looks like it really helps, because also we all know too that security is a mindset, right? And so it's practices and it's building it in and so having to differentiate that out between so many different tools it makes sense that we lose people, right? But if it's like, oh, I can do all the aspects of security that I need to across my team with one platform, kind of is a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, and everybody starts with open source. So did I when I was a developer, which is a great starting point. But you will quickly realize for enterprises, it's hard, right? It's basic. You will need to get into advanced attack techniques, coverage, have someone who can support you. And that's why having an enterprise-grade single platform is really valuable. So for anyone watching this, if you're interested, please do reach out. We're happy to kind of help you understand the platform, look at your mobile apps, and provide any assessments possible. Back to you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna. I mean, it's, as we talked about, as you mentioned throughout the whole thing, this is so ubiquitous, and mobile apps are just so present. And, like you said, a lot of things you don't think about is people click on the links from their, their email chains that they're a part of, or somebody sends them a funny little, TikTok and they want to click on it or whatever. Like, you don't know what your end users are doing. And so if you miss out on one part of it, your whole thing goes down, right? Like, you can't have, it's like the fjord, you have one little tiny hole in the dam and the whole thing bursts, right? So it's such a relevant topic. And to me, it just seems too, like you said too, when you move to one platform and you remove a lot of those differentiations and those silos, like, you can actually improve your go-to-market time, right? Because you're actually, there's less work to do getting it secured and keeping it secured after deployment. So it's really fascinating. Thanks for sharing.
No problem.
Yes, it's such an important topic, right? I mean, you're talking about apps. Like, I know apps that they don't even have really a web application. Like, it's pretty much, you try to go visit the app online and it tells you to go to your phone, download the app, and you're like, wait, I'm gonna, it's crazy.
Yeah, mobile first transformation is huge, and it makes sense, right? Everyone has a phone in their pocket. Why not?
Yeah.
We just need to find the right balance of security and performance. I think that's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's an old adage from the movie industry that I like to use that I think applies as well to development is, you can make a movie good, you can make it fast, and you can make it cheap, but you only get 2 out of 3.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And I feel like it's just, but that's why these tools exist. It's like, hey, well, you can do that. Like, we can do all this in one place. So it's cool. Well, thank you again. I think we'll wrap it up there. Appreciate you being a part with us today, Krishna. Always helpful. And thanks for everyone watching. Glad you could tune in and join us. Don't forget to click on our website, dzone.com/events. We've got all kinds of other events there on topics that are really relevant and important, just like this one. So be sure to check it out. And who knows, you might even see us at an in-person event later, coming up soon. So be sure to check that out, see if there's anything there that you want to meet us up at. If you do want to reach out and learn more about Zimperium, you can feel free to contact Krishna. He's on LinkedIn. You can find their information on his website, on the website. So be sure to reach out if you do have any more questions about that. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Krishna.
Thanks so much, Jason. Thanks, everyone.